Suffering. Not something we wish upon ourselves. Most people don't go around saying, I really hope something bad happens to me today. I really hope something traumatic happens that ruins my life. It's truly devastating when somebody actually has this mindset. I'm only 16 years old, but I have gone through more suffering than anyone my age would have to go through. Although my suffering may not be as severe as others, it doesn't make my suffering any less. There were moments I felt as if I had nothing left to give. I sat there crying in my room for the third time in a week. All that kept coming through my head was those taunting in middle school, this taunting of students as I walked down the hall in every single step. I knew I was on my own. I knew I was different. When you're 12, this feels like the end of the world. There's nowhere you can go, no one you can turn to, nowhere to put all your stress. I thought I was a mistake. And I thought, why am I here? I don't want to live anymore. Okay, I want everyone to close their eyes. Imagine sitting by yourself in your room. Tears are streaming down your face into the pillow. You feel as if your life is over. This is how so many people feel every single day. So you're suffering. How do you deal with that? Should you just give up? All right, open your eyes. According to suicide.org, 20% of teenagers have depression. However, only 30% of these teens are getting help. The other 70% may ignore the symptoms, they may choose to distract themselves, or they may choose to put themselves out of suffering, or they may choose just to suffer alone, which can end in so much pain. Many people, adults and teenagers, engage with suffering as an excuse to give up, to pity themselves, to wallow in the low. This causes so much pain and leads to someone hurting them or somebody else. According to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, each year 44,965 people commit suicide. It is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. As you can see, the highest age ranges are from middle-aged, from around 45 to 60 years old. This is when people are going through midlife crisis, and it's usually when they have the most suffering in their life. It is predicted that by 2030, suicide will be the leading cause of disability and death in the world, according to the World Health Organization. This needs to be stopped. We need to start facing the problem of suffering that leads to depression, and we need to fix it head on. So how must we face the suffering? We need to find the good in the suffering, and we need to make the suffering as a way not to give up, but to grow up, to make ourselves better, to progress ourselves and make ourselves stronger than before. The way to do this is we need to face the suffering head on. We need to not go behind, we need to face it and bring it up and be like, suffering. So, first thing we need to do, face the suffering head on. A perfect example of this is Jesus Christ. He was the perfect example of a man. And he faced his suffering head on more than I think anybody else would. So, according to the book of Luke 9:51, and it came to pass, when the time was come that he should be received up, he steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem. So, Jerusalem was the place where Jesus was going to be taken and be hung on the cross. He knew that the minute he stepped in Jerusalem, Judas was going to take him and kill him and hang him. He knew that this was the ultimate suffering. He knew he did not want to do it, but he had to. He knew this was what he was meant to do. He had to face the suffering head on. This is what his father told him to do, and so he faced the suffering. Even many, his friends, the disciples, such as Peter, told him not to go, but he went anyway to face his suffering. So the next way to face suffering is to talk about it. You can talk to friends, you can talk to family, you can talk to God, you can talk to anyone who will just be there and listen for you. You can even talk to yourself. Psychology researchers from Michigan State University and the University of Michigan concluded a study to determine if self-talking was a way to calm anxiety and to reduce stress. So they concluded that in places where the person was talking to themselves out loud, that the brain area where the activity is most associated with strong emotional experiences was less stress and had less anxiety and less movement. So, to take control and suffer well, instead of withering, you need to grow into the circumstances you are given. You need to learn and you need to progress from it. However you grow. So, you may grow spiritually. You may focus on your faith. You may pray more and you may try and get involved in your church. You may grow emotionally and you can learn how to be strong for your family and you can have no fear in anything. You may even grow physically. You can decide, go to the gym as a stress reliever. You can eat better and make your body better and feel more confident. So many people, when they're facing suffering, they grow in all three of these ways. What I hope you take away from this is how to engage in your suffering when life gets really brutal, and how not to give up, but to grow up and suffer well. When I was that 12-year-old back in 8th grade, I wish I had dealt with my suffering in a different way. I wish I faced my suffering head on. Instead, I suffered through 2 more years of crying, feeling helpless, and so much pain. Finally, in 2016, I was at camp and I decided I needed to talk to someone. I needed to face my suffering. I talked to my counselor, I took control, and I wanted to better myself. From that moment on, I grew physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I decided to make myself better. I decided to change. Physically, I started working out more. I started to enjoy working out and swimming, and that was my stress reliever. Every single day if I needed to release stress, that's what I did. I grew emotionally, and I tried to fix the relationships that were broken in my life. I tried to make amends with the people that I hurt and the ones that hurt me, and I made these relationships stronger than before. Spiritually, I personally think I grew the most. I started to create a true, strong relationship with Jesus Christ and seek His approval on anything and no one else's. Because to me, that didn't matter what anybody else thought. That made me so strong. And now I'm not suffering like I was before. No matter if you're a Christian, no matter if you're not, whether you're a teenager or you're an adult, you need to learn how to deal with your stress in a way that works for you. You need to face it head on. I'm stronger because I choose to suffer well.